Welcome to Schmidt List, where technology meets tenacity, hosted by Kurt Schmidt. As a professional business coach, best-selling author, and former BMX pro, Kurt brings you closer to the pioneers at the forefront of innovation. Every week, we dive into the minds of tech leaders and creative thinkers. Ready for a dose of inspiration? Let's get started.
Dylan, how are you today?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. I'm glad you're here. So Dylan, tell me about the business you do. Who do you work with?
We help businesses that want to avoid getting nailed by internet crime more than they want to be defensible against like a lawsuit or getting fired. And so often these end up being businesses with a lot to lose for whom like an insurance claim is not going to make it right. Think
Sure.
like medium law firms or something,
Mm-hmm.
If you do not want your intellectual property lawyer to lose your file to criminals, that is bad news for everybody.
Yeah, or my financial advisor or my lawyers or all the above. Well, this is very timely because, we have had some of this stuff in the news recently, especially here in Minnesota with the United Health Group. It just had a ransomware huge thing where that all went down. Tell me real quick, just for my knowledge and for the audience's knowledge, tell me what ransomware is really quick and how that works.
So it is the equivalent of, like, think of a mafioso from the 1920s, like Al Capone style, except with like a Bulgarian accent. And he plants a bomb in your house, like sneaks in your back door when your kids left it open, your high schooler left it open, plants a bomb in your house, takes pictures of everything, including like dirty clothes and stuff, and then sends you a letter saying, if you don't pay me, I'm going to explode the bomb and I'm going to send the pictures to Facebook.
That's amazing. That's a great analogy. I've really got it pictured in my head. Now, is it, you work with, I'm sure, and have worked over the years with a lot of different size organizations who, it's not really necessarily profitable to target small places, right? People are going to go after people who've got money, right? Or am I wrong there?
You are completely wrong. No.
Oh, tell me more.
But the crime industry, the internet crime industry is an industry. It's a market. There are suppliers and vendors, and they sell information to each other. There are different positions. There's marketplaces. And so the people who are going to be going after, let's say, Sony is not the same crime ring that's going to be going after Joe the plumber.
Okay.
The team that's going to go after Joe the plumber is going to be like a 200-person call center with a lot of overlap between those folks that call up your granny and say, I am your grandson, please bail me out of Mexican prison. Right? It doesn't have to be super effective. These guys are like 2 years of experience. It's a call center.
Mm-hmm.
And all they're hoping for is like 4,000 in fraud. That would make them super happy. That's a win.
Yeah. Right. So they don't need million. They don't need to abscond with millions of dollars, Ocean's 11 style. Right. So tell me, we've got, because you kind of touched on it where you hinted at AI there for a second. Obviously we've got a lot of people nervous about AI. Where does AI make you nervous? Generative AI in today's world make you more or less nervous in the security business?
I wrote an article about this about 5 months ago, and the point of the article is buckle up. It's going to get scary fast. And it's already mostly come true. Because you know what AI is really good at? AI is really good at sounding believable. AI is less good at being true and accurate, right? It'll make up court cases, no problem.
Sure.
But man, people will be fooled. You know what? The most important thing for a scammer, the most important skill for internet crime leader is being believable. Less important is being true.
Right.
And so this is, I mean, it might write your job description all right, but you know what it's going to be best at? Is really upping the sophistication of scams. So soon, that sort of high cost white glove approach that Sony gets and Joe does not get, Joe's going to start getting those in a couple of years. And
yeah.
It should be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but on the flip side, isn't one of our best defenses against that with AI is AI, right? Is that, you're not seeing that?
No.
Tell me more about that.
AI has not been able, as far as I know, and listeners, please tell me otherwise. I do not know of a reliable mechanism that detects AI. That isn't like, I don't know, 6 AI experts in a room reading over transcripts, right? It's very believable stuff.
Yeah. It makes sense. Well, and that's the thing is that I've seen many people talk about the best way to fight AI is with AI. And it feels like it's kind of the argument that, the best defense for guns is to have everybody have a gun, right? So if you just keep piling on the AI, I think at some point there's a diminishing of return, like you said, of understanding where truth lies inside of these sorts of things, right? So the simplest scams, and it's been the simplest scam for the longest time, is just your typical phishing scam, right? Which is, here's an email, click this link, and then I get access to everything. This has been going on for what? Since email started, right?
Maybe a decade later, but
yeah,
pretty close. Yeah, 40 years at least.
Yeah, it's been going on for a long time, but this still seems like the quickest way people are getting in the door. What are is that true today? What are the most common ways that people are breaking into these systems, some, as you said, sometimes leaving the door open for them, not necessarily breaking into anything.
There's this whole narrative of like Fort Knox, right? We've got this very militaristic set of metaphors in the security industry. It's like counterattack and threat modeling and layers of defense and stuff.
Sounds very important.
Yeah. And that is, in a sense, like there's a lot of value in that. Where it often breaks down is it doesn't prioritize the easiest wins. And I'll give you an example. This is an open secret in the security world that if you do the things on their list, like if you go Google how to be secure and you follow like the top 10 listicle or something, first 5 pages of Google, you'll get the same exact. All of them will be tech. All of them will demand that you change the way you work to a less convenient way, add more friction to your daily life, and they will consistently be 10 years old because the security industry's main priority is not stopping crime. It's being defensible. That's just where it came from. That's the DNA it has. And the incentives for large companies are still plumbed that way.
Okay.
If you do all those conventional things, you will be defensible. You will have bought the things. You will be able to say, I did the things. But because security, this cat and mouse game, moves so fast, the thing that works 10 years ago doesn't usually work anymore. A great example of this is like, finally, everybody and their mother wants you to have multi-factor authentication, right?
Right. They're forcing it in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah. And 10 years ago, it was an awesome idea. It was like the number one easy win. But there is now commodity session hijacking. And there is commodity like second factor interception. It is so easy.
Mm-hmm.
The tech has moved beyond. The threat has moved beyond. So if you get we're freezing your account email from your bank, and you click on the email and it shows like Bank of America or something, and send us your MFA, first like login, and that scammer is just going to take your username and password and notice them and plug them into the real Bank of America website. And then when the real Bank of America website says, what's your code that I sent to your phone? The scammer does the same thing, right? Yeah. He pops that up for you and you type in the little code and the scammer types that into the other computer. And this is all automated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't work anymore. There's like, you can buy this for $40 a month on whatever criminal forums.
Yeah. 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 Right. Well, and the thing is, I mean, I just got one this morning from LinkedIn saying, did you just try to log in from Moscow?
Yes.
Click this link if, whatever. And I was like, that's a good one. But thing is I learned early on, back in my early days with the QA teams and things that I worked at and the security teams that I worked with, is like the best defense is education, is people need to be educated in what scams look like, what they sound like, what they feel like. Back to your point about having these 7 analysts in a room poring over documentation to figure out what's real. Is that still true today? Is it still true that education people being wiser and smarter to these sorts of things will help them be more safe? Or is it technology that's going to save us? Which is it, Dylan?
I'm choosing option C, and I am
I love it.
In the minority on this belief. So, both education and tech are important. But if the security team, whether outsourced or a vendor or in-house, if their primary mission is to reduce risk, fundamentally for the organization, what they got to do is somehow reduce the frequency of all these workers doing dumb stuff, right? And it's not dumb like the people are dumb. It's just, there's a lot to know.
Yeah.
But the hard part, none of the people you're protecting care about you, care about your priorities. No, they care about revenue. They care about balancing books. They care about saving lives. They care about like keeping their job looking good in front of, the coworker across the cube. Security is maybe priority number 5 for some of them. So this narcissism of the security industry where it says, no, we are so important. We need you all to change what's important to you and learn our headspace. Come to us.
Yeah.
I don't think that's sustainable. It's not going to work long term. And tech is tough too. Like tech has a big role. Like often tech is the single point of failure. It's the easiest hole to poke. But often it's not. And there are some great creative ways. So this is option C. Process engineering for the risky things you do so you can detect weirdness goes a long way. So, for instance, you might have one person who sets up the vendors, who pays the invoices, who cuts the checks today, and they're getting bottlenecked, right? But you think, oh, this is a scary job. Like anybody could pay themselves. Well, what you can do is decouple that. You can say, all right, Debbie, who's smart and has great judgment and has been doing this for 40 years, we'll let her set up new vendors and we'll add a separate role for other people to pay them. And we'll set up alerts like you can't pay Granger more than $400 a month or something. And there's some awesome fintechs out there that basically allow a finance automation platform where you can set up some really sophisticated rules allowing where your money goes. That's not on the cybersecurity checklist, man.
Right.
But it has huge crime prevention value.
Yeah, I like that. There's a thing, especially with like credit cards, for example, right? If you go and buy 2 tanks of gas and then go and buy sneakers at a Foot Locker or something, like if you get red flagged, it doesn't matter. Like you're saying, there's patterns that are built into some of these things that people can look for, right? Because I've had this happen to me. I think it was my PayPal account or something they were taking out just like $13, like whichever. And then all of a sudden they went for like $300 or something. And I never noticed the trickle of the bleeding effect of what was going on. But I could see as I looked at the pattern over time, they were testing the waters. It's like sharks coming and taking a nibble right before they go in and take the full kill, right?
Yeah. And so philosophically, that is the best strategy for catching bad actors. It isn't Fort Knox. It's being real consistent about what you do, and so that you can notice when something's weird. And getting your systems to do this, I think this is what people mean when they say the solution is AI, more AI, right? Because there are a lot of opportunities, like if you have a lot of data about what scammers are doing, you can see what's coming down the pipe, and you have a team of 4 very smart people noticing the trends, and they've got some magic AI correlating and presenting indicators of badness.
Yep.
They can protect huge numbers of people all at once, almost instantly, much cheaper and at much higher quality than anybody could do themselves.
Yeah.
Because they can see it all.
Makes sense. Because there's also the level of adjacent to education is awareness. And one of the things, and my company has worked a lot with financial institutions, and they have sort of these, for lack of a better word, like, red light boards that happen. Like whenever there's incidents that happen, it goes out to a wide audience, no matter what it is. If it's a bank robbery or if it's a phishing scam or if it's whichever, like it's this awareness of what's happened, data around that information, and it's spreading that awareness across the organization to the right folks in almost real time in a lot of cases in these especially in the financial institutions. Maybe it's in other institutions at all. What's your take on that, on building that awareness? Because some of these places, like we had just mentioned, are opt to keep it quiet and just pay the ransom and move on with their lives, right?
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
I have many takes. I guess in the ransomware space, this is a place where, for almost everybody, an ounce of protection is going to set you for life.
Yeah.
Like, there's an easy way to stop it. It's not hard. It's not expensive. Just do it already. In terms of, you bring up a really interesting question about how should a large company make decisions about high-risk events?
Yeah.
And I've seen that model. I'm a process guy. I love my 1970s Toyota and Deming and stuff. And they would probably say the minimum number of people that we can involve for the fastest effective decision is probably correct, is probably the best way to resiliently and consistently handle those sorts of issues. And they often defer to putting accountability for continuous improvement on the line workers, right? Like, nobody knows the pain better than the person doing the work. And I find that compelling, but a lot of people in America, a lot of businesses have not bought into that
Well, they're still very command and control, sort of the old GM model, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
400 or 500 vice presidents and you're all set.
Yeah. Well, they made a lot of good credit card money.
Sure did.
But if you're the sort of person who thinks highly of convention and authority, and that's definitely that's a personality. That's a way to be, a good way to be. There is a good authority for the other side, the minimal person side. And it's espoused by Amazon. Amazon said, if we didn't do that, if we had to get everybody on the same page about all the decisions, we would have died a long time ago. And you can read about it. There's a book, How to Amazon, called Working Backward. A lot of people in the tech sphere love it. And that's what they describe. It's, you don't need more coordination. You need to eliminate people's dependence on coordination. They have a no coordination strategy. At least,
because again, you disseminate some of the decision making. I've had this discussion with people for years where it's like, why did you hire these people if they're, and give them titles and things if they're not going to be held accountable for the decisions and things that they make, right?
Yeah. And even on a micro level, the E-Myth spoke directly to this, right? Mm-hmm. There's this fear of letting go of control because other people fail. They will fail. They have failed. They will continue to fail. And you got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
You got to manage on the average. Innovation. Right. There's this really inspiring story. I don't know how true it is, but when one of Amazon's top data centers, like US East 1, fell over 5 years ago or something, and half the internet went down, they did a root cause analysis. They figured out there was one guy who did a thing. He pushed a change and the whole thing fell over, right?
Yep.
And I would say in 99% of companies, if you make a change that causes upwards of $3 billion in damages, you will get fired.
Yeah, you probably should move on to a different place.
Mm-hmm. And what Amazon said is, no, they didn't fire the guy. They said, if we have a system that enables one person to cause $3 billion of damage.
Yeah, one single point of failure, right?
The problem is not the guy. The problem is the system. Now, granted, US East 1 has fallen over 3 times since, but
sure.
I like the approach.
Yeah, but it's probably, again, back to your point, they learned from it. It probably stopped becoming a single point of failure. Maybe there was a couple more points of failure.
Well, right. Yes. I think they eliminated that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So, but that's, again, back to the idea of security, especially if I'm a criminal out there trying to go after these places. That's what I'm looking for, is a single point of failure. I don't want it to be a ton of work, do I?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the mission. In a single word, the way to stop internet crime is to eliminate your single points of failure.
Right.
Especially in your high risk activities. And some of us don't have high risk activities. We run tire repair shops or something.
Right.
And
sure.
The worst that can happen is our bank account gets drained and we lose a month of revenue or something.
Mm-hmm.
We're fine.
Mm-hmm.
But if a divorce lawyer loses your file to criminals and it goes on Facebook, that's your life. You're going to stab that guy.
Yeah. Right.
That's your lowest point. And so process engineering is really good at identifying single points of failure, which is why I think it has so much value to this problem set.
Yeah. Well, we just had this week, the British papers talking about Kate Middleton's health records were hacked, and they kept. But if you read the story, it's somebody working there just downloaded them, or it the place was not hacked. Like somebody from the outside was not sitting in a van with no windows,
right,
and satellites and a bunch of laptops, like trying to figure out how to break in, a la Mission Impossible style. Is somebody working
they
there?
always have black balaclavas.
Yeah, that's right. You gotta have that. And then like a hole in the van where you go into the manhole from the van.
Right. Exactly.
Like
necessary.
You gotta have that, because otherwise it's not true. It's not a real life thing. So, but like I said, it's this bad actors. It's not even just these people from the outside. You know, you've got to have these regulations and processes in place. And that's where I kind of go back to the education part, Dylan, where just having a security policy that people understand, or part of their onboarding or whatever, is so limited and lacking in places that you're creating that single point of failure in some ways, because somebody might not think that, if I just print out these records and fold them up and put them in my pocket and bring them with me, like it's not a big deal, right?
Right. I like that. I think even the places that do have policies, the policies are not persuasive.
Oh, right.
Because the policies just say what and how. They describe the shape of success. I think very few of them explain the why. Why is it bad for me, for the company? Why is it bad for you, the worker, for this to happen? And here's the best way for you to make it happen. This is like standard practices of sales and marketing. You got to have a CTA. You got to preach in their language, right? And I think it'll surprise none of us that the security industry is not very good, at least in-house security folks at sales and marketing.
They're not good at marketing their work as much as
their priorities. Yeah. And I think that's the zeitgeist that's coming down the pipe, is as crime is becoming a bigger practical deal to people, this maturity will grow. And I think that's good. I just hope we don't lose too much to North Korea's nuclear weapons program in the process.
Yeah, right. Well, speaking of crypto, I want to talk. That seems to be a thing that's changed the tune, especially in the ransomware part, because people are not asking for you to drop a suitcase full of cash at the trash bin on the corner of Central and 4th or whatever as much anymore. They're asking for Bitcoin or something, right?
Yeah. I feel like the Bitcoin bubble has burst a little bit.
Oh, yeah, sure.
The shiny has worn off of it.
It's true.
And the crusty old guys in the corner, like, get off my lawn sorts, have been saying since it started, like, the only meaningful use case that this enables, the only this reduces friction for, is crime.
Yep. 100%.
Because I think there's some possibility in like smart contracts, and you can set up some auto proxied payouts or something if like stock prices hit a certain amount. Like that can save you a lot of money in lawsuit fees if you don't trust the person you're making the deal with.
Yep.
But I think those crusty old guys were right this time, that the only reason you really need crypto is to facilitate crime of some sort, because it's, while traceable, it's not reversible.
Right.
And kind of that's kind of a necessary function for like a usable currency that's subject to law. You have to be able to go to somebody and say, like, he violated our contract, make him pay me back. You can't do that with Bitcoin.
No. And if you I can't imagine a world where, I mean, again, you see these cracks where people are allowing more and more things to happen with crypto, but it's very, to your point, it's nobody's going full in. That's a legitimate source, of banking and whichever on this, They're definitely dabbling, but that's because, again, you go where the money is. People are spending money there. So I'll take a chunk of that money. Sure. Why not? But as long as I don't overexpose myself or whichever I can get away with some of that, right?
Yeah. I think there's going to be some use, but it's going to be nerd use. It's going to be like complicated financial instrument use.
Yep.
I think it's really good. The underlying tech is really good when you have like a bunch of actors that don't trust each other and they need to do business with each other in a trusted way.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and we have that. Yeah. But we already have solutions for that. Like eBay has the escrow sort of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Where they'll hold things in escrow for you as a transaction. I mean, there's ways that people are trying to solve this where you have two people that don't trust each other. They have to make a transaction. Because again, like back to the scam stuff, I mean, there's tons of Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist scams out there, right? But it doesn't matter how much one-factor authentication you have. Okay, the other real quick in technology I want to talk about is passkey, because that's the new hotness that everybody's talking about. Explain to the audience real quick what's the difference between the two-factor authentication and what we're seeing with passkey, and why lots of places are pushing passkey now.
You are remarkably well read. I would say this is not something that many places are pushing. This is something that the most hip to the jive places are pushing.
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it more and more. I would say week after week, I'm seeing it show up. And hey, are you sure? Would you like to use passkey? I understand a little bit of it, but I'd love to hear your.
Sure.
You educate me, Dylan.
It's magic.
Okay.
What's the short version? You ever heard the phrase like it's turtles all the way down?
Yes, I've said that many times and nobody gets it.
Yeah. So if you're trying to like establish trust with somebody, I get a letter from Kurt, right? And I need to determine, is this really from Kurt?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like at the bottom of it, we have to have met and established trust in the beginning and exchange some secret between us, right? And after that, we can use that secret to create other secrets.
Yep.
Because depending on the first secret, there's another. And so in the identity management space, which is kind of the section of security that talks about authentication and stuff, they say it's secrets all the way down. You're never there. You can't get to something that's not a secret when you're trying to figure out trust. And so that's a problem for pretty much everybody. Mm-hmm. Passwords, that's the secret.
Yep.
Right? You don't want to share your secret.
That's the base. That's the foundation. There's nothing before or after it. It's the alpha and omega, right?
Right. And so like, I don't want to share my Kurt secret with Larry or Gretchen because Gretchen, I don't know how careful she is. And I'm like sending you $1 billion checks. I don't trust Gretchen with my Kurt business. And there's a long history of Gretchen's and Larry's, like losing my Kurt password secret. So a passkey is thing that goes underneath the secret that's not a secret. And there is very, very fancy math because it's a little dongle. It's a little, remember USB drives, right?
Oh, yeah.
They always died after a year, but this thing, and you can buy like two for one. YubiKey is the generic. It's like Kleenex. They created the whole thing. So Google also makes one, but I'd if you're going to go buy one, go buy one from Yubico. So you have this device, and through the magic of mathematics, it has secrets on it, and it can talk a special math secret exchanging language to other services and establish a secret that stays on the device. And you can use this to like extend your ability to secret your way into other things. And and chains of secrets and things. And it's all very magical. But here's the thing. At the bottom of the turtles is a YubiKey. Life is imperfect. You do not want to lose this thing, right? So the rule of using passkeys, YubiKeys, is you buy two. You buy at least two. And when they arrive, you provision both of them and you say, yes, these are both allowed to like a password manager or something that holds your actual creds to all these banking websites and stuff. And then same day, you pick up one of them and you go put it in your bank deposit box, like right away.
Yeah, you take it off-prem.
Don't take it out. You don't take it out unless you lose the first one. And then you only take it out to authorize the replacement you got. Because you do not want to call these places because they will think you're a scammer.
No, yeah, of course. I love it. Again, some people might think that, well, what do I have that's so important, Dylan? Like, what are they going to get? Like some credit card stuff and some email stuff. Like, why should I jump through these hoops? I'm not paranoid. Like, why do I need to go to this extra effort?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, actually. Most people, I think YubiKeys are a good idea, but they are extra friction. And I think today you get, for most people, unless you're getting hunted by a government or like mafiosos or something, you're going to get 80% of the value with just a password manager and a forward passphrase to it that you don't use anywhere else. And all your passwords are like random gibberish and you couldn't remember one if you tried.
Sure.
That's it. That's all. And your password manager holds all your credentials and it autofills on all your websites, and it will absolutely refuse to autofill your Bank of America password, even if you click that phishing link at 7 a.m. before you've had your coffee. It will not. And since you don't know it, you don't know that password, it's gibberish. That's your password manager looking out for you. Yeah. A lot of people like Bitwarden these days. LastPass has had some scandals. A lot of people left. 1Password is a paid option. They've kind of been the Cadillac or like...
Yeah, I've used 1Password vibe since it came out. I think it's been my first one and still my go-to.
Very nice product. Yes. But you do have to pay like $6 a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but the UI and the experience is so much nicer for that extra money. It makes it such a less of a pain in the butt. And what's great about it is it gives you, this is not sponsored by 1Password. I just tell everybody, but they do give you warnings of when your passwords have been compromised or been found on the dark web and things, which is really nice. So, there's just a little extra info there. So I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm. Even for small businesses, you can be pretty effective with a password manager. Both 1Password, Bitwarden, a lot of the other ones have kind of a team version, $20 a month, and it lets you very cheaply extend access to your team. So you need someone to make online purchases or post things to eBay or something. You can just say, like, Gretchen gets to access the eBay password. And then suddenly Gretchen's doing her thing with her password manager up in the corner, and she goes to eBay and like it autofills, and she never knows it. Right. And I mean, she could write it down, but like this eliminates a lot of risk for like a lot of friction, almost no effort, and probably some friction too. Yeah, right. Makes sense. So some people have gotten a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. Again, back to what you were saying is trying to eliminate as many single points of failure as possible. Right. Well, Dale, I could talk to you all day. Speaking of eliminating single points of failure, how do I get in touch with you? If I loved everything you were talking about here and I want to connect and learn more from you, where's a great place to do that? How should I find?
I have a business, Simple Salt. we stop crime for those people that are going to get nailed or that are going to lose a lot if they get nailed. You can look me up on LinkedIn. Do you do show notes? I can throw show notes or links in the show notes. Yeah.
Yep.
We have a lot of free content. We talked about credit cards. We talked about debit cards. We talked about how to protect your business. I've gotten to be a better writer since I wrote those original articles. So we'll probably end up improving them over the next year, but there's some good stuff. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the easy ways, check us out. What else? I don't know. LinkedIn, quit Twitter.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other episode.
And that concludes another episode of Schmidt List. Are you hungry for more insights and stories from the tech world? Visit us at schmidtconsulting.group and kurtschmidt.net. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review to help spread the inspiration. Join us next time for more groundbreaking conversations. Keep innovating, keep dreaming, and keep listening to Schmidt List.